These are all the books I read in the month of January, and we're gonna review them. Kind of sinister situation, and the whole time I'm just sitting here thinking like, girl, your homework. Just Low Moreland, everyone. Like, please. He is just the man I need right now. A werewolf? A were? Give me a were. And it's over. Isn't it crazy that it's literally already February and January is over? Like, that is insane, and I cannot comprehend that in the slightest. For my statistics in the month of January, I read 8 books total. That came out to a total of 3,300 pages and an average rating of a 3.0625. We're just gonna go through in order what I read in the beginning of January and then through what I read at the end of January. The first book I read in the month of January was Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I ended up giving this a 2 stars. It's a YA fantasy, and this is the second complete novel in the Powerless trilogy. The third one is coming out, I think, maybe sometime in February or March. I was really not a fan of this one. I really enjoyed Powerless, the little novella Powerful in between them. I was like iffy about, not super duper big fan of, but I was kind of just bored the whole time. I didn't really care, unfortunately, and I guessed pretty much every single plot twist that was supposed to be a plot twist that was supposed to get you in this entire book. Like the very ending, I guessed that, and so that was kind of just disappointing that I didn't ever get really caught off guard by any of the plot points. I can't really tell you the plot of it though, because it is the second book in a series and I really don't want to spoil it for anyone. First book of 2025, being a 2 stars was a little bit disappointing, but not the end of the world. Book number 2 I read was another YA fantasy, kind of out of character for me. It was Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I ended up rating this a 3 stars. Follows a witch and a witch hunter who end up courting each other to attempt to get information about the other one because they're both hunting the other, and they end up falling in love, having a little bit of a little romance here and there. It was a really fun story and plot line. I love a witchy vibe in a book as well as like a witch hunter vibe, and I love them paired together. I also really liked the romance. It was classic, like closed off and can't give each other the information but really want to know each other and kind of like low-key do know each other on a deep level, but you can't really admit that or like say it. But it just didn't do anything like new and different for me. I've seen this story before. I did really like the magic system, the way that blood and scarring was incorporated, and the magic system was really cool, but it just like didn't stand out to me as like new or different, which not every book is going to, and that's okay. Like, it was a 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I would recommend it. It just wasn't like a wow. Didn't have that wow factor that I was looking for. Not every book has to for it to be enjoyable. I have pre-ordered the second book in this duology, and I am going to read it when it comes out. It was just a fun little fantasy time. There's nothing wrong with that. I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It's kind of like a sci-fi literary fiction type of vibe, and it's like, what would happen if you had chosen a different path in life? So our main character is put in a situation in which she's about to die, and she goes into what's called the Midnight Library, and there's a librarian there that helps her pick each new book that shows her a different trajectory of her life if she had made a different decision in life, and she gets to see all these different places that she could be based on different decisions she could have made throughout her life and how that would have affected her. It made me notice the small pleasures and small choices that I've made that have probably impacted my life. It kind of just makes you think about life as a whole. Not everything is going to be perfect and positive, and no version of you in whatever world you're ever in is going to be all perfect and positive, so you're just doing the best with what you have is kind of like the moral of the story. And I enjoyed a lot of the writing in here. I don't know, I wasn't like hooked on it. I wasn't like fighting to come back to read it when I had to put it down, so that's why I got a 3.5. A 4 stars is like when I put the book down and I'm like, wow, I wish I was reading that right now. Like, I want to come back to it. This, I was having fun while I was reading it, but I wasn't like itching to pick it up when I didn't have it in my hand. There's really nothing negative about this book that made it that 3.5. It was just like the feeling. Then I turned to my Kindle because I really wanted a Kindle stalker romance. And this is what I ended up picking up based off a TikTok recommendation. I'm Not in Love, I Promise by Lauren Green. I think this is going to be an interconnected standalone series, but right now this is the only book that's out. And I ended up rating it a 2 star. I wanted more from the stalker aspect. That's what I was really looking for for was like the stalkerness of it, and it wasn't that. It was kind of like dark mafia, a little bit of stalker vibes, but I really wanted it to feel like Lights Out by Navessa Allen, and I haven't found anything that's giving me that same energy, and this was like my attempt, but it didn't work. It was kind of insta-lovey, but I was like just there for the vibe, so I didn't really mind that it was insta-love. That wasn't really why I like docked it down. I am not a hater of insta-love, actually. A lot of people hate insta-love. I don't really mind it. I didn't really like the pacing of like the plot. The plot was like completely all over the place. We were trying to like investigate this situation, but we would keep stopping. The whole time I was reading this, the main character is like actively in medical school, and she's like skipping a bunch of school to go investigate this like kind of sinister situation, and the whole time I'm just sitting here thinking like, girl, your homework, like what the hell are you doing with your homework? So that kind of took me out of it, because I'm sitting here as a college student, and if I like skipped a bunch of school to go investigate a murder, I'd be behind like years probably. I would never catch up. We have a little mini book club here with my friends. We read Bride. That was our book pick of the month, and it's by Hazelwood, Avi, one of my favorite authors. You know that, you've been known that. Originally I think I rated it a 4, but I re-rated it a 5. I just like sat there and giggled and kicked my feet and like binge read it during our snow day, because it was just so addicting. Like, it made me feel how Twilight made me feel when I first started reading it. It's so addictive and I can't put it down type situation. Just Hazelwood's writing, Hazelwood's characters, her worlds, they do it for me literally every time. She's so addicting and funny and witty, and her writing is just hilarious, and I love her. I really can't wait if there's gonna be more books in this universe. I think there will be, because it kind of like hints at it at the end. I really want Hazelwood to make this like an interconnected standalone series with like maybe 2 other couples, maybe just 1. Just Lo Moreland, everyone, like please. He is just the man I need right now. A werewolf, Aware. Give me Aware, and it's over. My favorite part about this book is, as I'm flipping through it, I'm like looking back at the little chapter headings right here. Gives you Lo's point of view, and this is the first time Hazelwood in any of her books ever has experimented with the male character's perspective in her books, and I ate it up every time. I will say it till the day I die, a dual POV is just unmatched, and that's the one thing I miss in Hazelwood books, is the lack of dual POV, and I really liked how she started experimenting with it in this book, and I hope she did experiment with it with Not in Love, which we'll talk about in a second, because I did read that this month as well. I want her to like really fully flesh out the male characters, and I want to hear what they're thinking, but almost at the same time, like when you don't hear what they're thinking, you value it so much more, because you're like, bitch, I know he's pining right now, but you can't see it, so it kind of like you want it more. I don't know, when someone tells you you can't have something and you want it more, that's how I feel about Hazelwood's men's POVs in all of her other books. Sometimes living in an apartment is just like loud. When I'm going to sleep, there's the train and the cars and the people above us, and like they're throwing beer cans, and it's all fun and games, and it's loud though. But I love it, but it's loud. I think they turned the corner. Might come back. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I think I rated it on my Fable a 3.5, I want to say. This will probably stick out to me as one of the most beautifully written thrillers I have ever touched in my life. Like the writing, I wanted to underline and highlight so many different things. Something I never get in thrillers. I never connect to the characters, and the writing is always just like kind of bad, but it's like you're there for the plot, so it's okay, but it's just like all kind of like not fully done. And this is my first Lisa Jewell book I've ever read. The thriller like itself, it was more of a mystery. It wasn't really about like the crazy plot twist or the gotcha moments. It was more just like exploring the horrific things that people do and their motivations behind them, and the nuances behind terrible things that people can do. It doesn't distract from the fact or take away from the fact that like what this person did was horrible and wrong and bad, but you kind of see their side of the story, and it doesn't mean that what they did wasn't bad. It just means that there's so much more to a bad action than just right and wrong. It kind of was more of a psychological mystery. Maybe I should bump this up to a 4 if I'm like really waxing poetic about this whole thing, but this will probably stick with me as one of my favorite thrillers that I've read in a while. It follows this mother and her daughter. Chill with the leaf blowers down there. I'm just gonna keep talking and hope to God that you can't, it's not like overpowering my voice and you can still hear me. So the mother starts dating this man like 14 years or something like that after the disappearance of her daughter, and his daughter looks eerily like her lost girl. She starts like re-investigating the case and trying to really figure out what happened. It was really good. I liked how we followed a bunch of different POVs and a bunch of different people, and it wasn't like you were trying to figure out this mystery before the characters. You were more in it to find out along with them and alongside them. I read another Ali Hazelwood, which was Not in Love. This is one of her newest releases. Actually, I think it's Tuesday, so Deep End came out today. I'm supposed to be getting that in the mail soon, but that's Ali Hazelwood's new release. But this was the release before that, and this was when she experimented with the male perspective, and this was also a more erotic romance. She put a little disclaimer in her author's note in the beginning saying that this was a very spice heavy book, and that was definitely true throughout. I don't really mind spice. I rated this a 2.5. I already started reading it during my book slump in August, and I got to about here. I like bookmarked the page. I got like 100 pages into it and had to put it down. It just wasn't really grabbing my attention. This follows Rue and Eli. Rue is this like science girly, as Ali Hazelwood normally does. She's always in those STEM romances. She has like this research that she's performing at her company and whatever. She goes on like a one-night stand kind of situation and meets this guy named Eli. Things happen, they end up not hooking up that night and whatever. Rue goes into work the next day, finds out that her company has been bought out, and Eli is one of the people who's bought out her company. They're really attracted to each other, but they're supposed to hate each other kind of thing. Like I said, like always, Ali Hazelwood gets me with her unique writing and her really quirky, unforgettable characters, and not quirky in a way that it's like so freaking annoying, but quirky in a way that I'm like, wow, I know I'd want to hang out with you. I think my issue with this Ali Hazelwood book in particular, it was so physical that it took away from the quintessential Ali Hazelwood yearning. I just know that this man loves her for like everything that she is, not physical, but also physical, but mostly not physical. And that's like something Ali Hazelwood does really well, is that yearning. But this was missing that because of how much their relationship started off physical. And that is not something that I have a problem with. Like if you're gonna have like an initial attraction in a physical starting relationship in a book, that's fine. But the emotional element has to grow. In this, I didn't feel that emotional element grow. It kind of just remained really physical to me. Even in the end, when we were supposed to feel this deep emotional connection, it just wasn't really there. I will always pick up whatever Ali Hazelwood writes. She's like literally one of my favorite authors ever. While this one was a little bit disappointing, I'm so glad like I read it. My expectations were up here and the book was like down here. But like, it's Ali Hazelwood, so can I complain? No. I read Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Finally, I literally owned the entire series. And tell me why I had not read a single one of them yet. I'm ridiculous. I need to stop buying books. It's like an issue now. I rated this 3 stars. I did not love this. Oh my god. I just like wanted more. I think the beginning was too slow for me and the end picked up, and I really started to enjoy the end, but by the time I got there I was like, this has been going on for so long. Why did it take long for this to get interesting? I want the other characters. A lot of people say that they really like these books because of how long they are. You get so much content of the characters, but at the same time they don't feel really long. I disagree. This felt like it took ages, and it did. It took me almost 2 weeks to read, and I normally hit a book in like 3 to 5 days. This was 600 pages. That should have been a 4 to 5 day book for me. It took me 2 weeks. I was so done by the end of it. I was over it. I wasn't a huge fan of the writing. I think that was one of my main problems. I didn't connect with the writing. It felt too simple and too simplistic for all the nuanced and heavy topics that were discussed throughout the book. I think I wanted more nuanced writing to go along with that. I started to really grow attached to the characters at the end and really enjoy them at the end, because I think you saw a lot more of their personalities. In the beginning, they were so closed off toward each other that I couldn't connect to them because they weren't only closed off to each other. I feel like they were also closed off to the reader. I think I can see myself getting really attached to the series later on. This first book just really didn't do it for me. I honestly thought that this book was going to be heavier than it was, because everyone stays saying how heavy the topics are, how sad it is, whatever. I was expecting more of that. Don't get me wrong, it was sad. There was a lot of things that you should check the trigger warnings for, and I just thought like with the length of this book that it would be more. That is the last book I read in January. I think I was supposed to, if I wanted to get on my reading goal, be at 9. Technically, I should have probably read one more book this month. Those are all the books I read in January. Thank you for listening, and let me know the books that you read in January as per usual.